Hi, my name is Brayden Braun. As you can tell from this hearse, I am dying to get into Patrick Henry College. But I have a big family, so I need scholarships. Fortunately, I absolutely love competitive speech and debate, which is why I am applying for the Forensic Scholarship. Let's take a look at a couple of videos from my junior year in speech and debate. The first video you will see is a 1 in R, advocating against an affirmative plan to ban mountaintop removal mining. The second video you will see is a cross-examination that I delivered against an affirmative team planning to exempt LNG tankers from the requirements of the Jones Act. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Some people define a tomato as a fruit. Some people define it as a vegetable. The point is that definitions differ. But why do these definitions differ? Well, in general, we might consider a tomato to be a vegetable. We use it in a lot of vegetable dishes, and it might be common man knowledge that it's a vegetable. But a tomato scientifically is a fruit because it has seeds. Here's the point I'm making with this. Definitions differ based on certain criteria. If you're writing a science textbook, you're going to use the scientific definition of something. Similarly, when you're passing a policy, you use the legal definition of something. The first main argument that was talked about in the 2AC that I want to address is this idea that the definitions are different. Observation 1 you can write down in response to all of these arguments is yes, no land restoration. Again, yes, no land restoration. I absolutely agree with them on something. There is no land restoration in general when it comes to mountaintop removal mining. What did the piece of evidence that I brought up say? It said that the legal definition of mountaintop removal mining has the criteria of the land being restored, just like the scientific definition of a tomato has the criteria of there being seeds in order for it to be a fruit. So keep in mind that at the end of this day, this legal criteria has not been fulfilled, meaning the mountaintop removal mining that they are arguing about with their definition that wasn't the legal definition, they're not going to be banning mountaintop removal mining because they're banning stuff that doesn't fall under the legal definition of it. So keep that in mind at the end of the day. They're banning nothing, their plan does not have a good effect, and it is insolvent. The next main argument they talked about was the idea that, well, government bans things all the time, and that, well, the harms are still happening, so we clearly need to ban this. My response is regulation is better. Again, regulation is better. Sure, maybe regulations don't exist right now. Great, don't ban it, let's regulate it. What we need to do is ensure safety standards just like we do with every other potentially dangerous product that has ever existed since the dawn of acting on policy in America. Next, the main argument was that, oh, we can phase out and a one-day phase out is okay. My response is a phase out takes time. Again, a phase out takes time. And this isn't just my contention, this is what they agreed to in cross-examination. They say that you take a percentage, then let them recover, then take another percentage, then let them recover, then take another percentage of mountaintop removal mining, and then let them recover. What does the affirmative team do? They get rid of an entire industry in one day. How is that supposed to affect the economy positively? It will not. The disadvantage stands. The other thing that they did at the first and second disadvantages is they basically just did evidence critiques. Let's go and respond to those. They first said that the evidence says it may be 30%. Keep in mind that this is a hard statistic to calculate. My response is an approximation. Again, an approximation. You're not going to say, oh, by the way, mountaintop removal mining is exactly this percentage because we went into every single mine and looked at the energy grid and got in there. What they're saying is an approximation. If it's saying it's may be 30%, it certainly isn't 1%. They also said that it's old evidence. My response is logically still using. Again, logically still using. They said that our evidence from 2016 saying 30% of West Virginia's coal, 30% of West Virginia's coal was from mountaintop removal mining. But they also said with newer evidence that 25% of all coal is mountaintop removal mining, and we brought up evidence from 2022 saying 91% of all of West Virginia's grid comes from coal. Now, they're not going to give up the most efficient way to access coal, so clearly since 2016, things have not changed and we're still using a lot of coal in West Virginia. So at the end of the day, what we absolutely see is that 27% of West Virginia's energy will go down. They said, well, that evidence wasn't specific to mountaintop removal mining. What we did is we calculated the amount of mountaintop removal mining that happens in West Virginia, then we took that out of like the total energy that they get, and then calculated the percentage. It was a bit of math there that we were doing. Finally, they said that a blog is not credible. That was the final evidence critique. And they said that you should prefer their evidence. My response is worker safety. Again, worker safety. We're going to trust everything mountains in this scenario because they have no evidence about worker safety that they brought up. They just talked about the surrounding communities. So this evidence stands and the disadvantage stands as well. So what we have so far is the fact that worker safety is harmed with an alternative form of mining that they are promoting. At the end of the day, here's what I want to say to you. Number one, even if you agree with everything that's in the affirmative team's plan, you still vote negative. Why? Because the legal definition does not apply to what they are trying to ban, so their policy will be ineffective. But even if that wasn't the case, they are taking out an entire industry in one day. Their evidence advocated for a phase-out, and they agreed in cross-examination that a phase-out does not take one day. Their own evidence doesn't support them. One day to remove an industry is incredibly harmful. Thanks. You said that right now China already has access to our ports. How much access do they have?
Just as many as any other ships in the world.
Okay, are you increasing the access that China has?
No.
Okay, so
they can already take the same exact trajectory as the ships will be able to take after we pass our plan. The only difference is what they will be carrying.
Okay, China right now, it's your contention, then can go between port to port?
Well, they can't go port to port, but they can go anywhere in our inland waterways, anywhere in our waters.
So right now what you're saying is that they can't go from port to port, and your plan allows them to go from port to port, right?
Yeah.
So in other words, you're increasing access?
No, because they can already access anywhere in the United States as of the current situation.
Okay, but right now, as we said, they cannot go from port to port, and you allow them to, right?
Yes.
Okay, why should we allow enemy countries to do that?
Because we need to supply our citizens with the necessary energy that they need.
Okay, so you're basically wanting us to buy more LNG from China?
No, that's exactly the point. We'll be buying our own LNG, which is a lot less expensive than foreign LNG because of geopolitical tensions going on in Europe.
From Chinese ships, correct?
No, because in the current system, Chinese ships make up only 9% of the global fleet. They have never shipped anything to the United States, LNG tankers.
So one in 10 ships are Chinese in terms of LNG tankers?
No, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No, that would be 10%. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so
that's
about
almost
1 in 10,
1%.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, yeah, we'll move on to other response. So when LNG comes to a port, how does it get to the consumer?
It gets there through pipelines.
Okay, do we have enough pipelines right now connecting to New England?
Yes.
Okay, what evidence said that?
So we do not have enough pipelines going from the mainland US to the actual New England, but we do have enough pipelines in between, and New England governors agreed with this.
The New England governor said that we had enough pipelines?
Yes, so they said that the only reason that their energy costs were so high was because of the Jones Act. That is a logical conclusion because the Jones Act bars us from having enough LNG in New England to be transported in between homes.
We'll look back at that evidence. We can agree that unions strike because they are worried about a slippery slope, right?
I read evidence about how that wouldn't cause a slippery slope.
Okay, great. But we can agree that the reason unions have striked is because they're worried about the slippery slope.
Well, you actually haven't read evidence about that, so you'd have to read evidence that when they wanted to actually exempt an LNG tanker, the unions were specifically opposed to that.
Your argument was that when a strike happens, they do it because they're worried that one exemption will lead to more exceptions, right?
And I said that wouldn't happen because it is an external union.
I agree, said that, but we can agree that then unions are worried about a slippery slope, right?
No, they're not, because that will not cause a slippery slope.
Okay, but you also said that unions are worried that one exemption will lead to another.
That's what you said. I reiterated your argument in order to respond to it in my speech.
Okay. Thank you so much for reviewing my application for the Forensic Scholarship.